Hey everybody, and welcome to the Daytona 500 edition of Squealing Tires here at dfscheatsheet.com. I'm Tyler Miller. Thanks so much for tuning in and listening. We'll jump right into it. The Daytona 500, NASCAR's biggest race of the year, the 62nd edition of the Great American Race, is going to be rolling off on Sunday afternoon. You can catch it live on Fox if you want to watch it. We will play DFS. Got some great contests, both FanDuel and DraftKings. With a full array, lots of different tournaments. If you're looking for multi-entry, some single-entry stuff, multipliers, everything all together, I think DraftKings has an $888,888 contest that you can play. FanDuel has some, whether you want to play $100, $50, and for a single entry, they have $9, $5.55 multi-entry, even a $2.22 multi-entry contest that you can check out. Lots of fun stuff. We're going to be talking mostly FanDuel pricing. FanDuel is just kind of the way I like to play NASCAR DFS with the 5-driver lineups. It just works better, especially for a place like Daytona. One less driver you have to pick to avoid wrecking, which I like. I've just had more success on FanDuel. There's some other differences between the two sites. If you're new to DFS NASCAR, obviously the Daytona 500, a good race to jump in on. If you want to check out, we have under the setup, dfscheatsheet.com, you can check out NASCAR 101. I go through and kind of highlight the differences, FanDuel scoring versus DraftKings scoring. DraftKings offers a different amount of points for laps led. They also do a full point for differential points, where FanDuel does a half point for differential points. And a differential point is any positions you've gained or lost, so you can get negative differential from your starting position to your finishing position. FanDuel also does a 1/10 of a point per lap run, which puts a premium on running all of the laps. The Daytona 500, a 200-lap race, so 20 points baseline just for finishing all the laps. So you pick a driver that wrecks out early, that's going to be a problem. If he wrecks out late, especially if there's a lot of other guys that have already crashed, might not hurt you as bad. Just kind of depends. It's a little bit like missing the cut in a PGA event. You want all your golfers to make the cut. Well, in NASCAR, you want all your drivers to not crash, especially at Daytona where there's so many of them. So let's jump in. Drivers I like. Just right off the top, I think there's two locks that, especially if you're only playing one lineup, my style is typically to create one lineup where I believe in everybody. I've made the choice. This is who I'm playing. This is the lineup I'm rolling with. And if I'm right, I'm right, and I win big. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And that's something I can live with, because usually if I'm wrong, something happens that I didn't see coming, or sometimes I just miss someone. But I try to really think through every play and try to play the best drivers possible to get myself the most points, get the winner, get some big differential points, and guys that are going to have a good day on Sunday. So what I'm looking at as my two locks for Daytona, right off the bat, the highest price on FanDuel, Kyle Busch, starting 28th. He's just 100% lock button for me. Kyle Busch has not won a Daytona 500, but he has the best driver rating of anyone at Daytona, the only person with a driver rating over 90. Typically at racetracks, when we talk Las Vegas next week, we'll talk about a driver rating over 100. And I think we'll see multiple drivers with that as their average rating over their career at that racetrack. Kyle Busch is over 90 at Daytona, which is very good. He's the only one over 90. He's at 91.2. Kyle Busch, average running position, 14.2. That's the second best among any active driver. So for every lap he's run, his average position on the racetrack is 14th. That's pretty good. There's 40 positions first to last place, 40 spots on the racetrack for these drivers. So his average running position, 14.2. He's also led 423 laps. So over 2 entire Daytona 500s in his career, over 8% of the laps he's run. So of every lap he runs, he's led 8 of them. So can you expect him to lead 16 laps? I think realistically you probably can. I think 10 to 20 laps led for Kyle Busch. I think he'll get to the front of the field quickly from his 28th starting position. I think you'll see him lead laps. And I think he'll be in contention at the end. I think it's going to come down to, in my opinion, the Fords against the Toyotas. I think the Chevys qualified well. I think some of them will race well, but overall, the way this whole week is shaped up, it seems like it's going to come down to the Fords and the Toyotas. And I like Kyle Busch. And then my second lock in my favorite, this is my pick to win the Daytona 500 is Denny Hamlin. I think Denny Hamlin is a must play. Starting 21st, he's going to be up front. He has a really fast car. If you've watched any of the coverage of practice, qualifying, or the dual races, you've seen Denny Hamlin get interviewed with a big smile on his face. He's happy to be in Daytona. He won this race 1 year ago. I think Denny he's my favorite to win. I think he'll lead laps, might even lead the most laps by the end of the day. I'm in on Denny Hamlin. So now we look at some decisions that have to be made after Hamlin. Where I want to be is right with Clint Bowyer. I like Clint Bowyer's starting position, 29th. I think people will overlook Clint because they'll look to the next two drivers I'm going to talk about, but I'm telling you, you can't overlook Clint Bowyer. His teammates are going to be fast. Eric Almirola and Kevin Harvick particularly will be good. I think he'll get right up there with the Fords, even the Penske Fords, which we know will be pretty good as well. And I like Clint Bowyer. I think it's a good value, under 10K. Something you'll hear me write about, you'll read that I write about and talk about throughout this season. We're looking for drivers under $10,000 in FanDuel pricing to score a top 10 finish. I think Clint Bowyer could potentially do that and plus add the plus 20 on differential. So you're looking at a big point day if Clint Bowyer just needs to be in the top 10. And like we say with Daytona, any of these drivers could finish in the top 10. Any of these drivers could wreck on lap 5. We don't know. It's all kind of a crapshoot. That's why, we're playing tournaments, mostly tournaments, some double ups and triple ups. I think just to kind of balance it out a little bit, you can do that. But really, this is a high risk race. You want a high reward. You want the possibility to make some big money on Sunday. And I think that's what we're aiming for. I think Clint Bowyer is a solid play at $9,000 on FanDuel. I think you got to roll with him. Bowyer 9th in driver rating at Daytona, 11th in average running position. He's led 162 laps and 28 starts. I'm in on it. I like this a lot. My next play and my favorite Chevy, I said I think it's going to be Fords and Toyotas, but I do like a couple of the Chevrolets. Chase Elliott, I think, is my top Chevy pick as far as scoring DFS points. Now, can William Byron and Alex Bowman finish 5th to 8th? Yeah, absolutely. But they're starting, 2nd and 4th. So that's not maybe the best DFS play. If you're starting William Byron, Alex Bowman, Jimmy Johnson, I think those are all guys with good race cars. They need to win. They need to win or finish 2nd and lead probably the most laps, and that's going to be tough. And if either of them wreck, then all of a sudden you're looking at negative 30 differential, and that gets real ugly real fast for you. So I like the Hendrick Motorsports cars in general. I think Chase Elliott's the best play, but he's expensive. The problem with playing Chase Elliott in this race is if you're going to play Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin, I don't think you can afford to play Chase Elliott. Maybe you can, but I think that's just a little too much at 12-2 to roll with Elliott, Hamlin, and Kyle Busch. So it gets me off of him a little bit. My big decision is coming right after that in Ryan Blaney. I really like Ryan Blaney. He's in a backup car. He's going to start at the back of the pack. He'll be credited with the 27th place starting position. So what that means is there's instances where drivers lose their starting position if they fail inspection or run afoul of the rules one way or the other. Ryan Blaney just had damage on his primary car from the Thursday night race. And so they pulled the backup car out, practiced it on Friday and Saturday, and he's going to start that backup car. So while he still gets credited with 27th place, he will start from the back of the field. I'm not worried about that. I think he'll get to the front. The thing with Ryan Blaney is, can he stay out of trouble? He's wrecked in 4 out of his last 5 races at Daytona, but he has the 6th best driver rating and the best average running position. He's also led a good amount of laps. Now, he hasn't been around for so long. He's limited starts at Daytona, but he's led 143 laps, nearly 9% of the laps he's run. For example, Denny Hamlin's led the most laps of any active driver at Daytona, 442. That's 8.9% of laps run. Ryan Blaney, 143. For him, that's 8.7% of laps run. So the second highest laps led when you count them as a percentage of total laps run for Ryan Blaney. If he can stay out of trouble, I think he's a good contender for a top 5 finish. He could lead some laps. He can get to the front. You're looking at plus 20 to plus, as much as maybe 25 differential. Man, I like Ryan Blaney, but I also like Kurt Busch. And here's my conundrum, right? So Kurt Busch, he's my second favorite Chevrolet on Sunday, starting 18th. What I like about Kurt Busch, and you had to watch the duel to see this, but on the last lap of the duel, Kurt Busch had a chance to pull out and try to win the race or try to finish third. And he pulled out to try to win, and it backfired. It didn't work. He got passed by quite a few cars and ended up finishing his duel further back than he should have, but that makes him now start in the 18th position. I think Kurt Busch can contend for a top 5. I think he can lead some laps. In his history, he's done really well. Now, Kurt Busch has been around for a long time. 4th best driver rating for Kurt Busch. He has the 6th best average running position, and he's also led the 3rd most laps, 299 laps led, 5.8%. He's wrecked recently. He won the Daytona 500 in 2017. He hasn't finished all that well since then, but I like Kurt this weekend. He showed me something Thursday night, and where I'm torn is between Ryan Blaney and Kurt Busch as my 4th starter on FanDuel. Other guys I like in the mid-tier, if you build your lineup a little differently, you say, hey, everybody's going to be on Kyle Busch. Everybody's going to be on Denny Hamlin. You're probably right. What if I build a lineup with Chase Elliott, with Kurt Busch, and then I think a couple guys you can look at, Matt DiBenedetto. DiBenedetto, and he might be popular. Some people will remember the Daytona 500 last year. They'll look at his ride and say, hey, you're the Wood Brothers now. That's a better car than the car you had last year. You expect him to do a little bit better. He's starting 18th. Could he finish in the top 10? Yeah. Could he lead some laps? Yeah. He led 49 laps last year and then ended up wrecking from the front of the field and just made a big mistake. So I think, he's learned from that. I don't see him causing a big wreck. Maybe, you never know. I think the expectations are pretty high, and maybe more people will play DiBenedetto than I think. But I think that's a different play you could play with Matt DiBenedetto. Maybe use him as an alternative to Chase Elliott and Ryan Blaney if you're cascading or building multiple lineups. The other guys I like Christopher Bell. I like all the Toyotas. I think the Toyotas in general, you'll have a 5-car Toyota pack at the end of the race if they're all still in the race. And I think Christopher Bell at 6,800 is a fantastic lower mid-tier play. He's a rookie, so there is some risk because of his inexperience racing at this level. But I'm confident in his ability. I think he could, you want Christopher Bell. You want Christopher Bell to find the back of Denny Hamlin or Kyle Busch and just stay glued to the bumper. Just follow them around the track, learn a lot, learn how to draft, what to do with a run, how to make a run, finish top 5, top 10, finish behind the Toyota. If he's the last car in the Toyota pack and they're side by side against the Fords to go for the win and Christopher Bell finishes 10th, I think that's a good day for him. Let me see where he's starting. Christopher Bell starting the Daytona 500 in 17th. So I think there's some opportunity there. I think nobody will be on him. I think you could play Christopher Bell at under 10% owned, very likely in almost any tournament. I think it's a good play. I don't think it's a great play. I don't think he wins the race, but I think it could be a pretty good play at low ownership. Ryan Preece, someone I think maybe pretty highly owned at 5,500, starting 31st. People will look at 31st place starting position, see that he finished 8th in the Daytona 500 last year. There's some positives there. His teammates on the pole, they have a new, they used to get ECR engines. Now JTG Doherty Racing gets Hendrick engines, faster cars, better engines. I see him, if he stays out of trouble, he could finish in the top 20. He could finish in the top 15. I think top 10 might be asking it a little too much. But I think Ryan Preece could be a good play at the 5,500 level if that's the way you want to build. Maybe use him as your value play and not go any lower than that. I think that could make some sense. You could make a good lineup: Ryan Preece, Kurt Busch, Matt DiBenedetto, Chase Elliott as your kind of top end play. I think you could put something together like that, and it would make a lot of sense. And then we look at value on FanDuel. There's no question, 100% Brendan Gaughan. That's all. You don't need to look anywhere else. $2,500 on FanDuel. He's $7,200 on DraftKings. DraftKings got the memo, I think, after the first race at Talladega last year, that they have to price Brendan Gaughan up because he just scores too many points. He's starting 39th. I think he'll get in a little pack. You'll see Brendan Gaughan and, Reed Sorensen and a couple of those guys sitting in the back of the pack and just riding in like a 5-car draft, 10 seconds behind the leaders, stay on the lead lap through the first 2 stages, and then try to race at the end of the race. We've seen him do it before. He can get a top 20 finish. If Brendan Gaughan finishes 20th, plus 19 differential at $2,500 on FanDuel, and he allows you to play guys together like Ryan Blaney, Clint Boyer, Denny Hamlin, and Kyle Busch, I think that makes a lot of sense to me. You can tell me differently, but I'm with Brendan Gaughan. It's a small team. The beard oil guys, whatever, they're buying it's an RCR car, right? They're buying an RCR car. It might not be this year's model, but it's an ECR engine. He's got plenty of power under the hood. I'm not worried about that car falling apart. And I'll say that as my lead-in to Reed Sorensen, because you could play Reed Sorensen, and on DraftKings, he's probably my favorite minimum price guy, starting 40th, so he has nowhere to go but forward, right? But I'm more worried about Reed Sorensen's car falling apart than I am about him getting involved in a crash, and there's a big risk of getting involved in a crash. So you can go that route if you want to. On DraftKings, I don't know if you can go with a lineup where you have to play Reed Sorensen to make it fit together. I don't know if that's the way to go. But on FanDuel, I think you can play Gaughan with confidence at $2,500, and that leaves you a ton of cash to get who you want at the top end. Get 3 drivers, 4 drivers that you think can lead laps and win the race. Go plus 15 to plus 20 differential. And I think you can be in the money on Sunday afternoon. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you guys have fun playing. Check out all the stuff, dfscheatsheet.com. The setup is kind of my statistical preview of the race, if you want to check that out. Victory Lane is what I've been reading off of mostly here. That gives my write-up with the drivers, the plays. Typically, on a race weekend, that's more of a cash game breakdown, but because of Daytona, because of the high risk involved, we look more at GPP, we play more drivers, look at a bigger player pool that you guys can pull from. So I hope you enjoy, have fun playing NASCAR, and enjoy the Daytona 500.